On March 26, 2024, the MV Dolly crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge. And we're not gonna talk about it. However, we're gonna talk something that relates heavily to this disaster. And I'm bad at segues, so let's just get straight into it. The MV Summit Venture was built in 1976 in Japan and was operated by Hercules Carriers and flagged in Liberia. She was a bulk carrier mostly operating in the Asia Pacific, but in the 1980s was moved over to the Atlantic routes, mostly along the Caribbean. The Sunshine Skyway bridge was built in 1954 across the Tampa Bay in Florida. Over 24 kilometers long, it was one of the largest bridges in America, becoming an icon of the area. And in 1971, to accommodate with the growing Tampa Bay area, a second section was added to the bridge. In May 1976, the Summit Venture was waiting just outside Tampa Bay, waiting for a pilot. In the previous months, 2 ships had struck the south span of the bridge without incident. This weakened the bridge, but no one was hurt. The ship raised anchor on the 9th of May 1980 and took a pilot from Tampa, John Laro and Bruce Atkins, boarded the ship. Bruce was a pilot in training and was there to see how things were done. The weather was bad with only 3 kilometers of visibility. The tugboat Dixie Progress stopped to let the Summit Venture through. After this, the pilot in training ordered full speed, and the main pilot took over. The storm got so bad that buoys 1A and 2A were out of sight but still on radar, causing them to reduce speed. It got so bad they could not see the bow. Then they saw 2A off their port side but thought it was 1A, so they made a change to port accordingly. They noticed that they were heading straight toward the bridge finally. They ordered anchors dropped and full astern. The starboard anchor hit the floor but began slowing it down, but it was too late. A portion of the bridge fell onto the ship's bow, and the ship came to a stop on Pier 2S. They called Mayday immediately, with the Dixie Progress coming to help them. 8 vehicles fell into the water, including a Greyhound bus. Only 1 person made it out of his car, being pulled up by the Summit Venture. 2 guys tried to signal to stop, but unfortunately, 3 cars and the bus zoomed past him into the water. 35 people died when the cars flew into the water. Findings put most of the blame on the pilot and pilot trainee, concluding that the pilot should have known he was off course, but acknowledging that it was hard to see where they were, and also put the pilot trainee at fault for not raising awareness to his boss, also concluding that the bridges were not adequate and needed protection. Eventually, changing regulations to have future bridges built with walls to protect them from ships. But you know what bridge was built before those regulations were made? The pilot that day also went on to teach students at the New York State University's T.S. Empire State, to make sure that future mariners did not make the same mistakes. Despite being legally acquitted, he would be consumed with guilt for the rest of his life. Despite the disaster, the undamaged section of the bridge would go on for 7 years to service the traffic of Tampa, before eventually a new bridge was finished in 1987, with new crash barriers on a larger span to allow transit under it, and some parts of the old bridge were repurposed into fishing piers. And if you drive along those fishing piers and you look to the side, you'll be able to see some sections of the old bridge still there. And at an RV stop on the bridge, there's a memorial to the Skyway disaster and the cutter Blackthorn sinking. The Summit Venture sailed back in its own power for repairs, and sailed until 1993 when it was sold and renamed Sailor, then to KS Harmony. She was sold to a Singaporean company, then renamed Jianmao 9. Not much is known after this, but in 2010, she sank in Vietnam after water flooded the holds, with all 26 crew saved. Her wreck has not been visited. So, why did the Summit Venture sink? When is the next bridge gonna collapse? And why has this happened so much? That's a very good question.